Most traders believe the real damage of a loss is financial, but money is rarely what destroys a trader. The real damage begins when a single loss starts influencing future decisions, changing perception, weakening confidence, and quietly taking control of the mind. One trade fails, one position closes in red, one opportunity disappears, and suddenly the market is no longer your main focus. Emotional recovery becomes your priority, and from that moment forward, you are no longer trading the market, you are trading your discomfort. That is why one loss can become far more dangerous than it appears, because the market only takes money once, but your mind can relive the same loss hundreds of times. Artificial intelligence-driven markets make this challenge even more difficult. Information moves faster, feedback arrives faster, opportunities appear and disappear faster, and the human brain receives less time than ever to process disappointment before another decision is required. The question is not whether losses will happen. Losses are part of every professional career. The real question is what happens inside your mind after they happen. Most people never ask this question. They focus on charts, indicators, strategies, and entries, while completely ignoring the psychological consequences of a setback. Yet those consequences often determine the future far more than the loss itself. A loss creates urgency. It creates a desire to recover, a desire to prove yourself, a desire to erase the emotional discomfort as quickly as possible, and that desire becomes the beginning of psychological instability. You tell yourself the next trade will fix everything. You convince yourself that one good position will restore confidence. But confidence built on immediate recovery is fragile because it remains dependent on outcomes you cannot control. The market does not know who you are. It does not know your goals, your intelligence, your effort, or your potential. It simply produces outcomes. Yet the human brain constantly tries to transform those outcomes into personal judgments. A winning trade feels like approval. A losing trade feels like rejection. Success feels like proof. Failure feels like doubt. And slowly, the trader becomes emotionally attached to results instead of committed to process. This transition is subtle, almost invisible, which is why it becomes so dangerous, because the trader rarely notices when objective observation turns into emotional dependency. One day you are following a system, the next day you are following feelings, one day you are evaluating probabilities, the next day you are evaluating your self-worth through outcomes, and eventually the market becomes less about execution and more about emotional survival. At that point, consistency becomes almost impossible. Not because the strategy stopped working, but because the person applying it keeps changing. After a win, you feel invincible. After a loss, you feel uncertain. After a drawdown, you feel fear. After a recovery, you feel relief. And every decision becomes influenced by the emotional residue of the previous one. The strategy remains the same, the rules remain the same, the market remains the same, but the operator changes every day. This is where reconstruction begins. Professional traders understand something that most participants never fully learn. Losses are events, they are not identities, they are information, not definitions, they are feedback, not verdicts. A loss does not tell you who you are, a loss tells you what happened. The difference between those two interpretations determines everything that follows. When you believe a loss defines you, you become defensive. When you become defensive, you stop observing clearly. When observation disappears, emotional decision-making takes control. The mind begins searching for comfort instead of truth. It starts looking for evidence that supports existing beliefs while ignoring information that challenges them. You are no longer reading the market, you are protecting your ego. This is one of the most expensive mistakes in financial markets, because reality continues communicating through price, but emotional attachment prevents you from listening. Many traders believe their inconsistency comes from poor strategies. Sometimes that is true, but often the deeper problem is psychological instability. The same system can produce completely different results when applied by different mental states. Fear executes differently than confidence. Urgency executes differently than patience. Frustration executes differently than clarity. The market may never change, yet the outcome changes because the operator changes. That is why resilience is one of the most important assets in modern markets, not because resilience eliminates pain, but because resilience prevents pain from controlling decisions. A resilient operator still feels disappointment, still feels frustration, still feels uncertainty, but those emotions no longer dictate behavior. This distinction becomes increasingly valuable as artificial intelligence continues transforming financial markets. Machines do not need confidence. They do not seek validation. They do not become emotionally attached to outcomes. Human beings do. That is why emotional discipline remains one of the few advantages machines cannot replicate. Recovery begins with separation. You must separate the trade from the trader, separate the outcome from your identity, separate temporary results from long-term capability, because without that separation, every loss becomes personal. When every loss becomes personal, every decision becomes emotional. When every decision becomes emotional, long-term consistency disappears. Think about what happens immediately after a painful loss. Attention narrows, thoughts accelerate, urgency increases. Every movement on the chart suddenly feels important, and the temptation to act becomes almost irresistible. The problem is that urgency creates an illusion. It creates the illusion that action equals progress. In reality, action often becomes emotional escape. The trader believes they are recovering. They are actually reacting. Professional recovery looks completely different. Instead of asking how quickly money can be recovered, elite operators ask a much more important question: did I execute correctly according to my process? That single question redirects attention toward what can actually be controlled. Results belong to uncertainty. Execution belongs to you. Results belong to probability. Process belongs to you. Results belong to the future. Decisions belong to the present. Most traders spend years trying to control outcomes. Professional traders spend years improving process. And that difference creates a completely different psychological experience. One path creates anxiety, the other creates stability. Imagine two traders experiencing the exact same loss. One immediately increases risk, searches for new trades, and tries to erase discomfort. The other pauses, reviews, execution, studies, mistakes, and accepts the outcome as part of probability. Externally, both traders lost money. Internally, they are moving toward entirely different futures. The first trader is strengthening emotional dependence. The second trader is strengthening resilience. Months later, the difference becomes obvious. One is exhausted, one is improving, one feels trapped, one feels stable, not because one avoided losses, because one learned how to recover from them. Recovery does not mean eliminating emotion. Recovery means preventing emotion from controlling perception, because perception determines decisions and decisions determine outcomes. This is the hidden objective of rebuilding the mind, not confidence, not motivation, not optimism, clarity. The ability to observe reality without distortion, the ability to process information without panic, the ability to remain stable while uncertainty unfolds, because uncertainty is never leaving financial markets. Wins will come, losses will come, drawdowns will come, unexpected events will come, and probabilities will continue unfolding regardless of your emotional state. The professional advantage is not avoiding these experiences. The professional advantage is surviving them without psychological damage. Eventually, a powerful realization emerges. The loss was never controlling your future. Your reaction to the loss was controlling your future. The market did not destroy your confidence. Your attachment to certainty destroyed your confidence. The market did not take away your clarity. Your obsession with immediate recovery took away your clarity. The market was only the mirror. The real battle was always internal. This is why the strongest traders are not those who never lose. They are the ones who know how to rebuild after losing again and again, without panic, without urgency, without emotional collapse. Every loss contains a choice. You can use it as evidence that something is wrong with you, or you can use it as information that helps you improve. One path creates fragility, the other creates resilience. And resilience is the foundation of everything that comes next. As we approach the end of this season, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your future in artificial intelligence-driven markets will not be determined by how often you win. It will be determined by what happens inside your mind when you do not. That is where reconstruction begins, that is where professional thinking begins, and that is where your transformation truly starts.